To your knowledge, has there ever been sexual intercourse of any kind in the premises of AJ's before becoming Liberty Lanes?
Oh my God. Some people said that they, even in high school, they would break in just to hook up with people in his establishment. Even the construction workers that were working on our place were like, oh man, I remember back here in the 80s, sex on the roof, in the bar, in the bathrooms. I'm Robert Endicott, and this is Interesting People.
How long have you owned and operated Liberty Lanes, historically known as AJ's?
We began the process December of 2022. There was quite a bit of unraveling that we had to do to get the purchase completed because of how layered the ownership was, because of AJ's multiple leasings that he had done to different people, the numerous different ownership endeavors that people sought for this place, but it never really fit. So there's a little bit of unraveling, so our actual purchase didn't go through until about May. About 5 months later, we were finally able to get all of the documents and everything like that in order to get the place purchased, and our sale went through, closed May 31st, and we were in the middle of renovating starting in, I believe we started February, and we renovated all the way up till August. We thought it was only going to take us 2 to 3 months, but there was a lot that we uncovered in here, and it was all good stuff. It wasn't from actual negligence, it was just from history and time. So it was all, good memories transpired, but it was just the lack of cleaning, stuff like that. So there was a lot. So August 12th was our first opening date, which means we had just recently had our anniversary. We did not announce it yet because as much as we love announcing and demonstrating what we've done to the public, it's not really about us. It's not about celebrating us. It's more, we did this to celebrate the public and make sure that there is something that everybody can go to. Everybody grew up in this place that is from here. There's even ties to people that are living all over the country, all over the world, that maybe passed through, grew up here, came here when they were younger, that will walk in and it will just, it's like a time warp sometimes, because not a lot has changed in this bowling side, aside from some fresh paint, a little bit of cleaning, maybe light updates, but there's really a lot of history in here. So we've only operated it for about a year, but within that year, there's been a lot in terms of change, in terms of establishing new reputation, things like that. So on paper, it's been a year that we've been open and operating, but the renovation itself and the ownership, we've owned it for about a year and a half now. So this is the new Liberty Lanes. Built in 1954, this place has seen a lot of changes. First and foremost, you could see the pool table walking in the door, the bowling alley. There's a lot that has tied to this room and not a whole lot of changes in all reality. But the one thing that we always want to make sure that you see right when you walk in is that this is a place for families.
You ain't on the word, crying all the time.
How is Liberty Lanes a safe place for families?
It is a safe place for families because it is not inhabited by the worst personalities of the area anymore. And that's a little harsh when I say that, but we all read in the paper when the guy overdosed on fentanyl in the woman's bathroom. I mean, AJ's been busted how many times for overserving and for serving minors. It's an amalgamation of misbehavior and misdirection that's kind of been pulled out. A lot of people in the community really appreciated it because they're like, hey, I was able to let loose there. I was safe. But it's safe for the community now because it's treated like a real business. And because it's treated like a real business that maintains the cleanliness standards, it upholds the values of family because we make sure that it's like well lit, that you're safe while you're there. You don't have to worry about like somebody attacking you in a dark corner because of how poorly lit it was. I argue that it's safe for families because of the cleanliness standards, the hygiene, the overall structure and rules that are in place. If somebody did come in and start acting aggressively, they wouldn't be in there for long instead of AJ talking them down and being like, let's go have a beer and talk about it, which might instigate another problem. So more of safe for families because we cater to the families and their needs. We want you to be able to come in here, feel comfortable, spend time with your family, play pool with your kids, play bowling. We've got an arcade room just over here. Let's wander this way and check it out real quick. 8-lane bowling alley, like I said, built in 1954. A lot of history, a lot of people growing up here, a lot of nostalgia for many of you. Right now, as it currently stands, this tends to be a lot of the favorite places for some people that really like pinball, or for the kids that just want to have a, couple seconds away from the parents. We all know how that can be sometimes. So walking through the bowling alley, we've got our locker room room for the league bowlers if that's something that you're into. And a lot of our interesting bowling balls are going to be on our wall of fame here. That right there is a pretty interesting piece for most bowling alleys because you don't see a whole lot of like nostalgic bowling balls. Betty Boops, Captain America balls, things like that. Things that are just unique, you know? We like to hold on to a lot of that, and some of it's even been given to us. So we like to portray that history here. We're going to show you a little bit of our secret garden. This is our bar, 38-foot long bar, seats 20 people at the bar top. Stretches all the way down, and we've got a pool hall at the very end. So there's been a lot of history in this room right here. Many of you remember in older days there used to be a pool table sitting right here. There used to be a pizzeria back in the day. So there's been a lot of changes, and this is our most current update and what we feel is more reflective of what this community needs.
Why do you believe that Liberty Lanes is more reflective of what the community needs compared to its historical reputation as AJ's? And also, just like in addition to that, like what do you define as the needs of the community?
It pertains to growth. It also pertains to the new demographic of people that we have moving here. Bonners Ferry started off as a very small town, and it obviously was put in the spotlight, you know, post-pandemic. What I argue is reflective of the community's needs is more cleaned up. It is more tailored to families because we have been kind of recognized as a familial community and a really safe place to raise your families. Tailoring that, we have cleaned up a lot of the riffraff, and when I say riffraff, I mean like regular drug users that felt that AJ's was a safe haven to even consume there, alcoholics, you know, domestic abusers, things like that. AJ's reputation was to accept everyone, including those that were somewhat toxic to the community. I'm not casting those people out. I'm essentially setting a standard that this is a safe place for families and the community alike, and those types of people won't be rejected, will be policed rather by us to make sure that that certain standard is upheld. I argue that the needs of this community need to be tailored a little bit more towards the growth that is obviously happening around us, whether we like it or not.
Thanks so much. Welcome to the wonderful Halloween party at the Liberty Place.
And I always argue that we need a little bit more tailoring towards the youth and the millennial generation and some Gen Z mixed in there as well, because frankly, a lot of the businesses in town, and I understand the reasoning why it is because demographically, they make up a good majority of the population, but those that are, boomers or Gen X, we're missing a big gap here, because everybody gets to that age and then they leave. That for me is a little bit of an issue because now we're not catering to them. We're losing that workforce. We're losing that ability for them to contribute, to learn here within this community, to offer their expertise, and maybe their expertise is minimal, but what they do have is the ability to work faster, harder, if they're taught appropriately. So the needs of this community, I argue, are rather that of accepting growth, accepting change, growing with it, amalgamating it into the bigger historical context of Bonners Ferry. Because most of the people that are moving here, despite people being like, oh, we don't want Bonners Ferry to grow, they're all like-minded. Yes, there are some that do have some opposing views, but when has a town such as Bonners Ferry, which has a lot of history, cast out those that wanted to contribute to the local economy just because of differing opinions?
You may have me all the time. You may never go my way. Well, Mother Earth is laying for you. That's the debt you got to pay. Don't care.
I know politics has played a lot into perspective lately, but I really do argue that we need to really focus more on the familial side of things, so that's why I helped with the other owner design the bowling alley the way that it is today.
What part does Gary Rhoads play in ownership?
So Gary, aside from being a role model to many of us in the place because of his successes in the community, he, I would say, is the cooler head that prevails sometimes that will come through the place. There is naturally in any hospitality industry some ups and downs, and Gary, being a pretty prolific businessman who's been in business for well over 40 years, is the cooler head that will come in and take care of some situations, that are a little bit more complex. He's pretty black and white, nips things in the bud real quick, which a lot of people really appreciate. I've followed suit, following in his footsteps. So he plays an advisory role in the business.
Great you are. Don't
There is a lot of experience that comes from me in hospitality industries that helps keep the place going, but Gary helps having his background in accounting on the financial side, analyzing things, and he's a great leader and a great role model for many people, so he'll come in and just dish out advice, sometimes unwarranted, but people still accept it and they love it nonetheless. He's seen as kind of like the dad around here a lot of the time, and you'll see him wandering around with his grandson William. They're very tight and very close, so when they both walk in, it's automatically like nobody's getting in trouble because they know that Gary's just got love to give. But he does like to see things cut and dry and run right. Like I said, he plays an advisory role, but he'll, I guess I could say, maybe corral people where they need to go without issuing vitriol or like bitter criticism of any type. It's always a refreshing sight to see him in here, because the one thing that most people in the community do share is they want to see Gary happy and succeed because they've known him for so long. Gary, he's been in this community for near 40 years. Utilizing my business knowledge and implementing some of those structures and practices into the tax office has really yielded a perspective to both of us that Gary has really been helping out people at no charge at a lot of things when it comes to accounting, taxation, etc. So a lot of people want to see him succeed because they have been helped by Gary to succeed, by business advice being free, him saying, don't worry about paying me for the bill, just get it to me when you can. There was a long time, actually, I would say easily over a decade, where our office worked completely off the honor system. And it was, we would do taxes, accounting and we'd be like, just pay me when you can. And people would show up, within a week. Sometimes it'd take 6 months. Sometimes it would take a year and a half, but they would always come back. For that reason, it helped us grow and establish this reputation of honor and our care for the community, because we always had the perspective, it's not about us taking our money and making the business better. I mean, obviously nobody goes into business unless they want to make money, otherwise it's a hobby. However, we really understood the struggle that takes place to be successful around here, and we wouldn't just hold people to the wall to make sure we got ours out of it.
You may own a racetrack. You may have enough money, maybe to buy anything that you like. I don't care how great you are.
We would make sure that they took the time that was needed so that they were in the best position possible and they didn't go through suffering just to make ends meet. So that's why people have a really positive outlook towards Gary.
How would you describe your business partnership with your father?
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. We bounce right off of each other. I would like to actually say it's probably more like good cop, bad cop, because we have these reverse roles sometimes where he will be the good cop and I'll be the bad cop. And usually I'm the one that makes the switch. I'll start to see him moving towards that bad cop role, and I'm like, okay, it's time for me to be good cop. So we always kind of have this perpetual balance of good cop, bad cop, and it really does help us out. And we're very, we have very open communication, and he and I have been through a lot, and through all of those issues that we've been through, it's only brought us closer together. We've always been honest with each other. Now, we've had a couple tiffs, just like any partnership, because we have a personal relationship that is very long-standing and profound. It's never really hindered our business progress, because one thing that he and I both have that we share in tandem is we see the end game on a lot of stuff. The stuff that happens in the middle is not as important as where we end, and we both kind of share that perspective.
What business experience do you have besides your current ownership of Liberty Lanes?
So aside from Liberty Lanes, I'm also an accountant over at Rhoads Tax Service here in town. It's located right next to Super One here in Bonners Ferry. My dad, who I'm partnered with, he's been operating that location for well beyond 25 years. I don't know if he's been at that specific location for 25 years. I believe he was at one more location in town. Prior to that, he's been here since the 80s. He opened his business in California, moved it up here, and it's been doing great since. And then after I graduated from Gonzaga, I came here and attributed some of the growth to the injection of business knowledge that I had attained to help that business grow. And so accounting, that's my other field. I've helped numerous other business owners open restaurants. I have quite a bit of restaurant industry experience. To be exact, I think I've helped open 4 other restaurants. This is the first bowling alley I've really had to endeavor on, but the beating heart of this bowling alley is the food, is the drink, is the hospitality industry. My experience in that industry has really helped bolster this place, because while my dad has been picking taken up the slack for me over at the accounting office. I've been taking the reins at this place, utilizing the knowledge that I have to help get into the position where it needs to be. And outside of that as well, you know, outside of that business knowledge, the accounting office or tax firm and this bowling alley here, prior to all of that business stuff, I was in the modeling industry for quite a few years, which is where I gained a lot of my open communication experience for interviews and coordinating with the public and stuff like that.
What is the biggest lesson you learned while modeling?
You know, the modeling industry does a really good job to beat your ego down. You'd think it would be the exact opposite, you know, like, oh, these models are all egotistical. You really only get that once you go super, and that just means that you move into like a whole nother realm of A-list modeling and stuff like that, even B-list modeling. I wanted to transition into the movie industry, but one of my probably most important lessons was that it ain't all about you or ain't all about me, because they hammer that in at the start. They're like, hey, just because you're modeling doesn't mean that you're special. They'd always kind of rattle in the phrase, models are a dime a dozen. It's easy to replace a good looking face, especially when, depending on where you're at in the world, there's a line of them out the door because they all gravitate to that region to kind of partake in that industry. So egoism tends to die in those industries, and that's why you find a lot of models that become self-conscious and over obsessive about like really weird things, or eating habits, how they look, etc. For men, it's a little different. Men become a little bit hypercritical themselves. Women become a little self-obsessed, from my experience in the industry. That's where a lot of them, if they don't make it, turn into like obsessive social media faces in a sense, or they tend to become a little bit more self-centered following their exit from that industry. But for men, it's usually the exact opposite. We start criticizing ourselves a little bit more. So the biggest lesson is just essentially it's not all about me. It's interesting, especially since when you model as someone else, unless you're doing like clothing modeling or runway. Even then, you're just the body. They're not actually looking at you. Most of the time in modeling, they're not looking at you. They're looking at the product which is being sold. You're just the carrier for that product. Think of it as like the grocery store. If you wanted to sell chips off of the shelf, you'd probably want to walk into a grocery store that was clean, manicured, easy to tell what the price was, the process to get that object was efficient. The same concept applies. You want your model to look good, make your product look good, etc., etc. In this position, it's helped me articulate with the general public, be a face for people when they come in and who they're looking for. It's given me standards for how to hold myself in public, because when I was doing it, I only started in Spokane as kind of like a little part-time, like, oh, this is a hobby thing, and then I got a full ride to Las Vegas, where I was living down there and modeling, and I was with a couple different agencies down there. I really appreciated the opportunity, and that helped me portray myself as that professional individual. Essentially, it was, how do you want the world to see you? And I use that information and that knowledge sometimes to make sure that I'm being as professional as possible, with reason, because as I'm sure we'll get to here in a little bit, sometimes there is a professional line that I have to cross here in order for people to know the change that has been embraced in this place.
First off, how do you define this professional line, and in what ways have you had to cross it?
So generally, that professional line is determined based on the interaction from the opposing perspective. So if I see somebody getting personal, and I don't want to say personal like, you know, they're actually like targeting you personally, you know, it's just they're taking it a little bit too personal, how much change has happened. And that's where the professional boundary, because that professional boundary can be defined as like not caring, almost treating it as a machine in and of itself. It's a business. Businesses don't have emotions. You have to treat it as such. Crossing that boundary can be both good and bad. That could be something as simple as throwing somebody out because they wanted to start targeting bartenders or staff because of the changes, because they don't get what they want, because they argue AJ would have done it for them this way. So you have to get, I don't want to say aggressive, but firm on the changes, and then make sure they swiftly exit. But then there's the opposing perspective. You see struggle amongst the community members, which is common in today's world, and you cross that professional boundary of coming down and saying, hey, I'm human too. I can give you a break on this. And while professionally that's not the best thing to do because you're actually cutting some of the profit that you're making, you're driving more of a dedication to your business from community members, because I was able to come down and say, hey, I can do this for you, so that you aren't the one that's ultimately hurting from it.
He's gonna come back someday.
reciprocally on the other side. We actually just had something like that happen the other day. We had somebody come in who's a regular, and we've never seen this out of him before. And two regulars were talking at the bar about politics, and of course, you know, that's how all arguments unfurl. But a character who has always been very level-headed exploded, started screaming at everybody in the bar, making accusations which were completely unfounded, really just kind of attacking the emotional aspect of people and how they portray themselves in the community. And granted, this individual was intoxicated, so that played a big factor, but none of us had ever seen this behavior come out of him. So, and that's where, had I been there in that situation, because I wasn't, my bartender was, and she did the same thing I would have done, and that's where she came down from the professional line and said, hey, I understand what you're saying, but you can't talk to me like that in here. You can't talk to any of the people like that in here. And now that's a professional standard, but going down and saying, hey, what is going on with you right now? Like, are you going through something? Like, is there something that we need to know? Is there anything you need help with? No, blah, blah. Accusations being thrown about, and then just being like, you know what? Hey, you're not doing good right now. Get out of here, you know, because when that generally happens, you can't just say, can you leave calmly? You actually have to say, you get out. It can be professional in some industries. I feel it's a bit of an unprofessionalism because of how stern you have to be. Customer service goes right out the window.
And you know that you won't be back no more.
So we have 4 tables, and then probably the most memorable one that everybody knows, loves, and won't forget, and that's
Why is that so memorable?
Well, see, this table right here is a hand-built table. It was built in, I believe, the 80s out of a 1964 AMC subframe. And the thing that is the most unique about this is everybody that has grown up in this community pre-1980s remembers playing on this pool table, and for some of us, sleeping on it.
Have you ever slept on the infamous pool table?
I have not.
You have not.
I actually have never slept at the bowling alley in general, so that might make me a minority in town, though. Who knows? Because apparently there is many, many people who have slept at the bowling alley, on the roof, inside, outside, you know, all areas. The property in and of itself is kind of like a campground over time, not any centralized point in time.
They got lots of money. Nothing but time to spend.
However, Big Blue, I do remember when we purchased it, and AJ was going through his rituals of passing it off onto us. You know, he wanted to get drunk in there one last time. And of course, after hours, just beer. I think it was Coors Banquets, you know, Yellow Jackets or Buckskins. That's all he drinks. And for him, it takes like 4 or 5. So not a whole lot. And I think he only had 4 or 5. And then he was like, I'm tired. I'm going to go to sleep. Fell asleep on the pool table. Ironically enough, this was back before AJ had a heater on the bar side. It was in the winter time, so he got cold, ended up finding him asleep on the floor in between lanes 7 and 8, but that was just what he liked to do. He felt so at home with it, he would sleep anywhere. There are stories that people would tell you about AJ being asleep on the bowling lanes themselves, so I guess to each their own.
You're quoted from a Facebook message to me, and you said, it is unique how most everyone who grew up in this area has had an experience with AJ, whether it be good or bad, and they can tie it to their memories of growing up. What do you mean by this?
So what I mean by this is AJ has had this a part of this building in the bowling alley itself as a part of the community for a very long time, decades and decades, so generations in all reality. As people have grown up and been in here and either had good relations with AJ or bad relations with AJ, they can venture off into the world and still come back, see that this place is open, come back in the doors, see the change, but still tie into the history of the memories that they had in this building. And like I said, some good, some bad. The good because of the freedom that AJ let happen in the place, but sometimes that freedom is part of the bad that people perceive. Just throw this out there. Nobody wants to come in and hear of, like, you know, drug usage or like alcoholism by teenagers.
Your quote is saying, I remember having a beer underage here. Was there a time when teenagers were drinking alcohol and or using drugs on the premises of AJ's before becoming Liberty Lanes?
Now, I don't have direct experience saying yay or nay, and even if I did, I'd plead the fifth. I mean, I remember having a beer underage here. Oh, you just turned 20? Well, here, have a beer. Hey, isn't this against the law? Nobody's gonna know. Many of us have experienced that same experience, in this building, which is what attributed to AJ's loss of the alcohol license in and of itself. The general conversation around Bonner's Ferry is like, oh, I remember when AJ owned this. I would smoke weed or, do whatever, some of the more common recreational drugs in his establishment. And I know AJ would kind of turn a blind eye on it because he was all about making sure the kids were safe. But however, it was misguided to be taken as he allows and propagates that kind of activity to happen in his place, when in reality, those kids are going to do it anyways. They're just going to do it in their car while they're driving, which might put people at risk, or they'll do it in the woods, which is a risk in and of itself, and so on and so forth. So he was more about providing a safe establishment as opposed to propagating that kind of activity. So did that take place in AJ's? Absolutely, and I know tons of people can confirm it. I remember when AJ had the liquor license in the drinking underage, and I'm not selling out AJ or anything like this because this time has come and passed. I remember drinking Jaeger in the walk-in with him, and there's quite a few people that can remember that as well. And I remember even hiring staff when we first opened that were like, I remember AJ gave me my first beer at 14, said, I'm gonna watch you drink it real quick because this is the only one you're gonna get. Yeah, those activities did take place there. And those activities not taking place there anymore is furthermore building upon that safe place for families. Unrestricted freedom, is what was really transpiring here. And a lot of people attributed that to their, we were just a kid phase that helped them grow up and create those memories to where they're like, oh, I let it out when I was young. Now I'm older and more dialed in. But some people never grew up and they're still doing that. So that's why you have some good, some bad. But no matter what, anybody that walks in will have some nostalgia of somewhat of a good memory, even the people that experience bad situations, because of so much good being drawn out of this place because of the unrestricted freedoms. Now, like I said, how that can be perceived as a bad thing because there are those that, do like those boundaries, which total respect for those types. I have no qualms against them. But yeah, that's where it can be perceived as good or bad.
To your knowledge, has there ever been sexual intercourse of any kind in the premises of AJ's before becoming Liberty Lanes?
Oh my God. Well, I personally have never partaked in it and such, but I have heard countless stories about it. Not to get grotesque, I'm just going to tell only brief stories. There used to be the bedrooms in the back, which that's part of the reason we tore them off. Some people said that they, even in high school, they would break in just to hook up with people in his establishment through those windows. So obviously our first purchase of the place meant the effective elimination of any living quarters in the bowling alley. So that was the first part to go, including ripping up the foundation. And even the construction workers that were working on our place were like, oh man, I remember back here in the 80s, sex on the roof, in the bar, in the bathrooms. It seemed to me, and this is why it was so comical, that when we bought the place, we didn't actually know the real history because all these people came out of the woodworks and started telling us all of what they have ever done in that place, whether it was drugs or sex or illegal gambling. It seemed to be like the haven for bad behavior. And that's part of the reason, and I'll still build upon that, safer families now. Because hearing all of the stuff that happened, I'm like, wow, how Liberty Lanes is today is nothing like how it was previously. And I understand AJ. That's why AJ's got the reputation of being fun, albeit controversial, is because he was able to let loose and people just do whatever they want like that in the establishment. So those rebellious memories, all of us carry them. Oh, I remember that one time I did that. I'll never do that again, but that was fun. Everybody has one of those, and a lot of them come from AJ's. So that's why so much nostalgia is tied to AJ's, is because it was that one-off memory, that one time that people tend to reference. So
what has been your experience with AJ personally?
I would consider him a member of my family. And like any member of your family, you're gonna have good and bad times with them. My personal experience with AJ has been very positive. He's helped me grow up and go through situations, like he's helped me experience breakups, he's helped me experience familial losses. My personal experience has been pretty positive. He's never crossed me, I've never crossed him. We've been very honest with each other. I'd say an overall very good experience between the both of us, and we support each other and we have each other's backs. He's teaching me how to rebuild the machines, and it's because we share the same dream. We want to make sure that this is a place for families, it stays a place for families. The only difference I'd say that he and I have is I have a little bit more boundaries than he does, and I actually hold to them, which is where some people can get a little irritated with me sometimes, and it's because I hold those boundaries. I don't believe in keeping people pleased at the expense of relinquishing my boundaries, because there's got to be some standards for service and maintaining a reputation and a safe place for everyone, and those boundaries are what keep it all together. So.
Absolutely. What's your experience with him professionally, or would you say that you share the same opinion as you do personally?
Ooh, professionally, it's a little bit different. At our core, we both got big hearts. Professionally, there is a lot of headbutting that will go on sometimes because he does have no filter. He's a little bit rough around the edges. So professionally, it's hard to articulate anytime I hire somebody because AJ's still a part of teaching us the bowling side. I do have to kind of give like a little asterisk to most people when I hire him, like, hey, there's this individual. He's the original founder of the building and things like that. For that reason, professionally, he's difficult to articulate with, especially when you're like, hey, this person's a little sensitive to certain information. Well, that's just a green light for him to go crazy and start saying whatever he wants sometimes. And as much as I respect him as a person, professionally, it's sometimes a little bit of a difficult battle. There are times that we all wish that he would embrace the silence is golden rule, but that is part of what makes AJ AJ, is he's got that unique personality. There are people that will sometimes see him walk in the door and go arms up in the air running towards him, just happier than can be. And then there's other people, he walks in the door, their arms go up and run the other direction, not happy as can be, Yeah. So professionally, it can be a challenge sometimes.
What is the meaning behind the name Liberty Lanes? Because originally it was AJ's, and we all know why it was AJ's. What's the story behind Liberty Lanes?
So Liberty Lanes actually has kind of a funny, thinking of it now in retrospect, it's actually got kind of a comical history to it. So the name was picked from a large group of us all sitting at a dinner table. We had gotten this place and we could not wrap our head around a name for this place, because generally with a name, we want it to kind of flow through us, for it to appear, for it to become almost like naturally aspired. We were waiting for something to come to us, some sort of symbol, got to give us a sign, something like that, for what to call this place. And through this, I guess, mental articulation of trying to discover a name, it actually just dawned on us that what this place encapsulated throughout history should be portrayed in its name, and that everybody had the liberty to do as they pleased in here over time. Granted, it transpired to not be the most beneficial in some situations, but we wanted people to come in and still have the liberty to feel free to have fun. That was just one part of it. The second part of it is the word itself encapsulated what a lot of us really believe in, is we hold our civil liberties pretty close to us, near and dear. We believe that having those liberties, those God-given rights, everything like that is very important, especially with all of the trials and tribulations of what's going on in the world today. In addition to, it was reflective of the standards and norms of the community. Those three factors are what played into us deciding on that name, and it just tended to be a bonus that it rolled off the tongue. But we did really want to hammer in the historically AJ's thing. That was one part that we refused to leave out. Now, the reason for that was just because everybody grew up and everybody knows AJ. Whether they like him or not, everybody knows AJ. Funny thing about it is AJ was given numerous opportunities to sell this place, some for exceedingly large amounts of cash, and he still refused because he just wanted it to remain a family establishment. Now, by family, it was perceived, kids doing whatever they wanted, it unraveled. At the core of it all, AJ just wanted a safe haven for everyone, a place where everybody could call home in a sense, a place where everybody would be at peace to do whatever they wanted without judgment, even sometimes the worst things, but we kept it historically AJ's because we wanted to make sure that we paid homage to that attribute that AJ had, that fleck of gold in his heart, where he really, at the core of it all, just wanted to make sure that the kids had somewhere to go and the kids had somewhere safe. It was a side effect that the adults also were able to act like kids in here, but at the core of it all, he just wanted to make sure that the kids were not off running around drinking and driving. Instead, they were inside in a controlled environment, semi-controlled, but still safe. That's where he felt was the most important values, and we just wanted to tie in that we do agree that this needs continues to be a safe haven for a lot of people with some boundaries, but it's historically AJ's because everybody grew up with AJ, good or bad, and we can't erase the history of this place. So what better than to embrace it? Moving forward, once again, a lot of history even in this room, bringing it the most up to date that we felt that was fit for the community. A lot of members of the community have voiced that they wanted to see something new, something fresh, still paying homage to the nostalgia of growing up in this place. So we felt what better than to make the bar, one, out of a bowling lane, and two, make it large enough for everybody to enjoy, because we all remember the small bar that AJ had that we all remember going to, but it just wasn't enough for the growing town that we're all embracing. A lot of like-minded people coming in, and we want to make sure that that's available for everyone. So this actually was made out of a bowling lane that was in-house. So it's a synthetic bowling lane. There's two bowling lane types, to my knowledge. You've got the wood lanes, and then you've got the synthetic lanes. The synthetic lanes are the newer ones. They're thinner. Very, very hard and durable. You can slam a bowling ball right on this counter, nothing's going to happen to it. So we made sure that it was bar-proof, so to speak. But yes, this is a sourced bowling lane from the alley. We have a couple replacement lanes in the back workshop area, and we just pulled one of these from the back. It took an entire 60-foot lane. There's about 38 feet worth of bar. However, we weren't able to utilize most of it. So if you look around, there's like some random like shelving and stuff like that we've made out of the bowling lanes. The pool hall has shelving made out of the bowling lanes. And that's something that people can really enjoy because, one, you can get your drink rings all over it and it will not affect it whatsoever. It's also very easy to clean and it's very sanitary.
So it's good for the bartenders and things like that.
Exactly. And sometimes, you know, you get a lot of people that will McFly you and want you to send a milkshake down halfway down the bar into your hand. That's definitely a bar top that can be done with. It's a great bar top, and I actually really enjoy that we took this option with it because of its durability, its hardiness, and the general nostalgia. The one thing that I haven't mentioned yet is if you took a black light over it, there'd be a highway running right along the top because we took the highway pattern right off of one of the lanes and made sure it correlated with this bar top. So something unique. And that's one of the things about this building is there's uniqueness in every corner, small little Easter eggs that we've planted and we're still waiting for some customers to find. In terms of Easter eggs, they're just like fun little quips essentially, and they're not like verbal statements or anything like that, but there's constructural oddities, I guess I would rather say, architectural marvels that make you go, huh, that AJ had done himself. And there's a few throughout the building, so the only thing I will say to kind of give a leading into where those might be is look around in the corners that you would never usually look into. Look on the roof, open doors, you'd be surprised with what you find. There are some that I actually will leave a message on where if you open a door, it's like, you've opened this door, sign your name here. Oh, you know, yes.
Okay. What has changed in this company now that it's under your ownership?
Well, I will say that the professionalism has gone through the roof. That's actually part of what has irked some people in this community is because we treat this place like a business now. And because it's treated like a business and not like somebody's playpen, I guess I could say. Because that reputation went on for so long, there was many members that came in here that were irritated with us because we were upholding that professionalism and those boundaries. And they felt that they still had the right to get things for free or disrespect the building. There's a little bit of a backlash that we faced when we first opened because of how we wanted this place to run like a business. I'll never forget this one family that came in. While their heart was in the right place, they're very irritated with me that I didn't give them free bowling because AJ had always given them free bowling. I just told them, like, I understand your criticism and your discontent towards having to actually pay for bowling now, but that comes with a normal running business. I remember them even getting upset saying the customer is always right. I understand, but it doesn't mean that they always get things for free. They had fun, they embraced the service, and, you know, therefore, just like normal society, they'll have to pay for it. Now, what is different, like I said, is the professionalism. We respect our customers, we withhold the language. The bar is a little bit different, especially in the nighttime, because I give some freedom to my bartenders to articulate and banter, I guess I will say, with customers. But out here, if you've noticed, there's no beer memorabilia, there's nothing like that. I have ensured that it is family oriented out here. If there's any signage, it's soda related, it's awards, it's music related, but none of it is anything contraband related educated, I guess I could say. So also respecting our religious community as well, because some of them had voice, hey, I don't want to see any of that like portrayed out here. So we've done our best to eliminate a lot of that. How have we strayed from AJ? Us as owners don't do that type of activity. In our personal time, it might be a different conversation, but we're not going to be getting drunk with our staff and dancing on the roof or the pool tables or anything like that. We uphold and maintain standards for each of our employees, for ourselves. We make sure it's a safe place for everyone, even to the point where we don't let customers get overly intoxicated or damage the place or upset others. It's been another uphill battle as we'll get people in here that will still act like it's AJ's, and then another family will come in next to them that will respect it as the new establishment, and then they'll kind of quarrel sometimes because of the disrespect coming from one family versus the respect from another. That's still some of the challenges presented in the first couple years of ownership because of the change of reputation. So it's just a necessary beast based on how AJ let everybody do what they want in the place. Granted, his intentions might have came from a good place, probably nothing negative, but for that reason, there was a lot of advantage taking that happened here, and we make sure that most people don't take advantage of this building, don't disrespect the building anymore. You can understand how with that comes some pushback.
In that spirit, what steps have you taken and are currently taking to repair this image within the community?
Well, the best thing that we have done is just by being consistent, holding true to our boundaries, ensuring that we just deliver good customer service. Like, we actually care about a lot of the customers that come in here. So it's almost upsetting for a lot of us, because when people will get upset because they, and I'm just gonna be 100% honest when I say this, when they are entitled to what they feel they deserve, anybody that comes in with that mentality is gonna be disappointed when they leave, because we deliver an equal service amongst everyone. We don't put anybody on a pedestal in here, and we make sure that everybody has fun, enjoys themselves, and everybody is respectful of everybody else. Now, automatically, some people get really upset because they want to be the center of the universe, or they want to be the loudest in the room, or they want to have more space than anybody else. And, you know, those are challenges that present themselves, but the best way that we articulate it is we just uphold those boundaries and make sure that everybody really does come in here and have fun without it being at the expense of other people.
What is the biggest change the building has had since 1954?
I'd say the addition of the bar, and I'm not certain as to what time that got added, but when it was originally constructed, it was just the rectangular bowling alley itself. That's all. Where the locker room was actually was where the entrance was back in the 50s. The locker room didn't exist. It was, so you'd walk in, there's the counter, there's the bowling alley, and that was really all there was in there. Since that point, there's been quite a few additions. So the bar was added on, the locker room was added on, the entrance was moved to the front of the building, not where it's at now, but actually just completely north facing. A little bit further than that, AJ decided to add on the, if I recall correctly, he added on the restaurant a little later, and that front area. He also added on the arcade room and that back section, which is on the southwest corner, but it was just used as a parts storage. It was all open completely to the environment. And then when we took it over, we sealed everything in and turned it into the pool hall. There was a dirt area that everybody remembered hanging out in the back, where there's like a storage of all sorts of like roof tiles and stuff like that. And we ended up making that the new bar entrance and the bathrooms. So there, you know, there's been actually quite a few add-ons, but we pay homage to the original rectangle that was constructed in the 50s, which was just that bowling alley itself. If anybody has ever been up on the flat roof and they look at the bowling alley, the rubberized roof in and of itself encompasses all of what was original, and any of the metal roofs that drain off from that is all additional. For those that are tech savvy, looking at it from Google Maps would probably portray a little bit more of the history of like what the original building was, because you could see the color variations on Google Map, the black rubberized roof, and then like the brown roofing that went around it. That was all additions.
Liberty Lanes operates by a policy that no one under 21 can enter the bar area, and that everyone's ID is checked regardless of how many times they visited before. Is this accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did one of your bartenders receive backlash from a local law enforcement officer for upholding this policy? If so, what is this story? What was the officer's name?
Yes, so with this upgrade,
Till the sea runs dry. Now my brain turns back on me. I'm gonna jump overboard and die.
we've held to our standard that we're not going to lose our license like AJ. We're not going to even try to get slapped on the hand like most places have in town. So for this reason, like I said, there's a problem that we've been battling in this building, and it's the entitlement, okay? I'm a part of this member of the community, or like I've grown up in this building for X amount of time, or whatever the case is I don't want to say we don't care, because we do care, but it doesn't give weight to breaking the rules that we have put in place to protect ourselves. We do check every ID. Do we check it every time? We do vary on that sometimes, because if we see a regular coming in every single day, we're like, and they remember it. When I say they, I mean bartenders.
Yeah.
We know not to check that ID. What we will generally ask is, do you have your ID on you? Because it is a required law in the state of Idaho that you have to have a form of identification on you while consuming a controlled substance. We have had some individuals come in, speaking specifically this law enforcement officer, who felt that because he was sitting at a bar, which does require you to have your license on you, but was not consuming an alcoholic beverage, and because of his history in law enforcement, he felt that he was not required to adhere to the rules, standards, and operating procedures that we had put in place to ensure that the reputation and the, I guess I could say, protections that were put in place to make sure that we can continue serving the community. Well, there was some backlash from this individual because they felt that because they have a history of serving this community, that they didn't have to adhere to the standards of certain businesses because of how revered they may have been in this community, or maybe the history that they may have done, or whatever dedication, whatever the reason may be. There was some backlash that I faced for this, and it was just because I held to my boundaries. Everybody has to essentially stick to this. Yes, there was some backlash, and they refused to come back in because they didn't want to have the need to have their ID on them, even though he was within the premises of the bar and we had our rules in place. There was just some pushback that they felt like they didn't need to uphold this. So
is this a retired law enforcement officer?
It is. Okay. Correct. Yes. And I believe this officer was part of, if in our emails with each other, part of ISP. So it was jarring to me that while knowing these laws, they felt that they didn't have to respect our rules in this establishment. So that kind of it was kind of I wouldn't say upsetting, but it was a little bit disappointing, because we want everybody to respect the rules of this place, and we don't want people to carry that AJ mentality of like, oh, the rules are there to be broken, or how far can I push this boundary? People have learned quickly that they cannot push them at all.
Who was the bartender involved?
The bartender involved was, her name is Cheyenne. She's our nighttime manager. Excellent bartender, has tons of history in Sandpoint bartending. She's not from Bonners, so for that reason, she's got a little bit of a different portrayal than anybody that's from Bonners. She's from Sandpoint and other cities. Like I said, spent her entire life in the hospitality industry, so her knowledge and adherence to serving rules are very strict. She can be a little rough around the edges because of how many different bar crowds that she's had to deal with over her lifetime, but her experience has really shined through to help us keep the standards of this place at where they need to be. The case in point, though, is she stuck to her guns, and she held to our policy. While I respect your law enforcement history, I respect your contributions to the state, to the community, I have to hold everybody to the same standards, so unfortunately I need you to have your ID on you if you're going to be sitting at this bar. There was a refusal, there was upset, the email exchange, and so on and so forth, and then the ball started rolling downhill.
Where did that situation lead?
It ended respectfully. I articulated via email that we're standing our ground. I supported the bartender's decision to not serve them because of the refusal to obtain ID. I held to our guns on that one, and so did she, and I really respected that, and it is what has contributed to portraying that reputation that we hold to our boundaries, and that we want this place to be one that is known for following rules.
You mentioned having a pro shop and being able to drill balls.
Yes.
So could you elaborate on that?
So AJ currently is the one that operates the pro shop. And by pro shop, professional shop, essentially people that really want to tailor their bowling balls to them. We custom fit your hand to the bowling ball. You find a weight that fits you. AJ and I would watch, how you move your arm when you bowl, or what type of bowler you are, straight line, curve, if you like the hook shot, and then we would find a ball that would tailor to you specifically. But we do just drill balls for people that already know, and they're like, hey, I just want to get it fitted for me and drilled. And AJ actually has been teaching me how to take his place in the pro shop, and I actually drilled 3 balls just last week. It was a great experience, but he's kind of passing that buck on to me now of how to operate the pro shop, and that's just making sure that that bowling ball really is comfortable. Because if you don't have a comfortable bowling ball, that's where your arm will kind of start to hurt afterwards. You'll get calluses really fast on your hand because there's a lot of friction burn because you're holding it wrong, or it's moving out of your hand wrong, or maybe your hand starts to hurt a little bit because of the mobility of it was not used properly in correlation to how that ball actually spins and moves. So really it's just taking an object, a sporting object, and tailoring it to you individually so that it is the easiest motion to deliver and succeed at what you're doing. It's been a little bit of a I guess I could say like unspoken gem, because not a lot of people know we have the pro shop, but if people come in and they ask us like, hey, can you drill about bowling balls? Because it's not advertised, we're always able to accommodate. It just takes a little bit of a timely manner because I got to get AJ in there, and he's in there usually about 2-3 days a week, at which point we'll drill them. So usually about a week turnaround, we can always have the balls available.
What is Liberty Lane's goal within the community?
Our goal within the community is to maintain this establishment as a family-focused business. As time goes on, our bar has been expanding, our pool hall has been expanding, but one of the biggest challenges to make sure that we uphold our goal of serving the community, maintaining entertainment for everyone, and having a place for everyone to go that's safe, hospitable, and clean. The biggest challenge I'd say with that has been keeping the lanes up to date, especially since as time goes on, bowling has decreased in terms of its total attendance, and that's a natural side effect. Bowling is a very old sport. Post-pandemic, the numbers have gone up a little bit, but historically it has been dropping and declining. So those people that are knowledgeable about how to run a bowling alley have decreased. So they've even come out with new bowling machines that are maintenance free and stuff like that, because bowling mechanics are hard to come by. So AJ passing that knowledge along to me to maintain the machines, and I can distribute that knowledge, also helps keep the perpetual life in this building, because it ensures that bowling will be around for everyone in this community. It also just means that this place will be able to operate so that people can come in and have fun and stay within this community and support the one place that they grew up in.
I didn't really realize it was such a dying sport.
Yeah, it really has declined a lot, over the years, and it's not very common that you see younger people embrace professional bowling. Usually it's a little bit of an older crowd, and for that reason we're very, very, I would say, like accepting or almost like open to bringing in younger kids. That's why we have like the 1 cent Sundays or family fun night. It's why we give the bowling pin out, because we want kids to be able to hold that pin and be like, wow, the sound of it falling on the ground. It's a very unique sound. So we want them to have that tangibility of what still is existing, and maybe have a tie to come back here even. And with our pro shop being able to drill balls and everything like that, we can really tailor it to anybody that wants to enter into the sport.
Just earlier you were talking about you're exploring getting a liquor license, and you said that would make the bowling alley kind of a different animal. What do you mean by a different animal?
Well, currently, if you really take a look at the bowling alley and how it is and how it's progressed, even in the past decade or so, when AJ was owning it, and it was beer and wine only, canned cocktails, etc. It wasn't as crazy. Obviously, beer drinkers, you are bound by a couple different like physical factors. Obviously, like the consumption of liquids. A gallon of beer is going to treat you a little bit differently than a gallon of liquor. There's that physical restraint of the amount of fluid you're intaking, but also like the strength of it. Therefore, it's not as difficult to police and monitor and control beer and wine consumption. Liquor, a little bit differently. So what I was meaning, and it being a different animal, is currently with it being just beer and wine, it's a little bit more curtailed towards family. The family atmosphere has been flourishing. Now, when we do get the liquor license, that's where bouncers and stuff come into play, because of the strength of alcohol and how wily people will get sometimes. And making sure that there is that stark divide between the bar and the bowling alley, because currently the bowling alley is a very family environment. We've pulled out all of like the beer advertising, aside from the coasters. Having liquor means that we're going to have to police people a whole lot more. People will get unruly faster, and it generally will bring a larger crowd, because beer really only captures about a good 40 to 50% of the alcohol consumption market. There is some really, I don't want to say like devoted, but people that just really prefer liquor, not just because of its strength, but because it does have some, arguably, don't quote me on this, I'm not a health practitioner of any sort, but health effects. Drinking beer, there's a lot of gluten and starch that goes with it, so that becomes an issue. All liquor to some degree is gluten-free. So it also appeals to a much larger market. So it does have those different health benefits. Benefits probably isn't the right word, but just, different aspects of how it affects your health. There's a lot of other things to consider. So it being a different animal is just generally me summing up that we're gonna have to pay a lot more attention to it. We're gonna have to really abide by a lot more rules. Bartenders need to go through more training. Security needs to get involved. It means it will probably be open later because a lot of the liquor drinkers really like to be out until about 2. Beer and wine drink, it's pretty common that you don't see a whole lot of them after 11, which is why we currently close at 12.
What is Liberty Lane's policy on potential drunk drivers considering that you serve alcohol?
Okay, so for drunk drivers, see, this can be a little bit difficult because we cut people off a little bit earlier from what we've heard than other places in town. Because we don't want people driving drunk, okay? Now, there is some situations where like a birthday party will happen or somebody will have a ride home, or we don't overserve by any means, but we do use a great deal of, I guess I could say, like mental articulation in determining if it's good enough to serve that other beer. A lot of people get irritated because we really push the water with the alcohol consumption. There's a regular that comes in here that will drink all day and they'll be like, another beer, and we're like, nope. Water first, and they're like, ugh, all right, well, I know the rule.
You mentioned earlier when I asked you about the liquor and like expanding in that aspect that you would have bouncers.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, well, the people really tend to love their liquor. The liquor drinkers love liquor. Numerous people have told me, or asked me rather, hey, when are you getting a liquor license? When are you getting a liquor license? And I'm like, I'm working on it. It takes time. It's not easy. It costs money, and there's an uphill battle with paperwork and stuff like that. But the bouncers thing comes in because with liquor comes different people, and those different people, being only liquor drinkers, tend to have strong personalities sometimes, not always. So the bouncers are really rather for me not having to have the bartenders kick people out, because with beer and wine, it's not really too much of an issue because it's a slow lead-in. But you can have somebody come in and take a couple shots, and the next thing you know... breaking loose. And that's where the bouncer comes in and just guides them out the door, just like one of my favorite movies, Roadhouse. Be nice, get them outside, but be nice. Once they're outside, it's not our problem anymore. And I really kind of champion that. So I'm already kind of like anticipating what I'm going to be up against once liquor comes into play because of how fast it gets you to that intoxicated state.
How does Liberty Lanes hope to expand in the coming years?
In the coming years, we're hoping to bring on a couple interesting new items. We haven't really mentioned this to anybody yet, so you'll be the first to hear this. This is really cool. We do have a potential business interest that's going to help us expand. And what you can probably see in this building in the coming years is an asphalted parking lot, new signage out front. We are currently developing some plans to build a deck out of the bar and take those bar windows, turn them into roll-ups, and have you be able to be served drinks to the outside, enclosing the back area. So we have some really awesome plans for back here to kind of cater to the social life of Bonners Ferry, I guess I could say. That would probably be one of the more interesting things coming up, in addition to pool leagues and other items like that.
What do you have to say to all your regulars and Liberty Lanes?
I'd have to say thank you. Not just thank you. Because of those regulars, they're not just there to support the bowling alley. They're there to support Gary and I also. I do thank them when I see them personally a lot of the time, but I actually want to say thank you because without them, this obviously wouldn't be happening. We're doing it for the community. We're doing it for them. So them showing up on a regular basis and supporting us demonstrates that we're making the right decision, and that demonstration makes us continue to be motivated to continue to serve them.
What do you have to say to new customers?
To new customers, I'd say welcome and give us a shot, honestly. Like, we're a little bit of a different animal because we present ourselves in a different way because we're an entertainment establishment. So while we might not have the clear-cut lines of like a restaurant or a straight bar, there's a lot of noise going on with the bowling and the darts and the pool and etc. I'd say welcome and just have fun and be respectful. By doing such, I think you'll find that it can be a second home.
What do you have to say to the people of Boundary County?
Boundary County, I just say I appreciate everybody, and I appreciate all of their commitment to the community, and just give a little bit more credence to the newcomers, because a lot of them are like-minded, and I understand the tight circles that exist and want to protect what's theirs, and I guarantee most of them aren't purposefully trying to step on toes. We're all just trying to find our place in this county. Instead of maybe demonizing them, be open to helping them find a place where they belong to. As the owner and representative of Liberty Lanes, I'd say, if I had to say anything to the community, it'd be two things. It'd be, I'm sorry that the change has negatively affected some. I'm sorry that any history that maybe people had tied to might have been overwritten by the new changes. But what I'm not sorry about is that we have done this with families in mind. We have guaranteed by making these changes to not only stay ahead of change so that the business does not perish, but also ensuring that this place is here for generations to come, so that people can make more memories, and people from my generation, from the generation below me, can say, I remember growing up here and experiencing getting my first bowling pin, or losing on the arcade, or having my dad kick my butt at bowling, or whatever the case may be. I am sorry that change had to happen, but I'm not sorry that I did it so that people can continue to have those loving memories of one another for time to come.
If you could be heard and understood by all people simultaneously, what would you say?
Now, is this pertaining to the bowling alley itself?
To the world.
That's a really good question. And I'd probably sum it up with just saying, be nice, honestly. Like, everybody's going through stuff right now. The world is an ever-evolving animal, and I have as much love as I can give to everybody that I talk to. And everybody is trying their best. The best of some people might be the least to others. I would argue, and I would suggest, just to be nice to everyone. Be patient, give credence to what people are trying to accomplish, and understand that if the world is a room, we're all trying to find our place in it. We're all gonna try to find what's comfortable in this metaphorical room. So yeah, I just argue, be nice, be respectful, and just give common decency, that base level of respect for them having made it this far in life, because that's an achievement in and of itself. My name is Robert Endicott, owner of Liberty Lanes. We're located at 6662 Lincoln Street in Bonners Ferry, Idaho. Or you can go ahead and find us on Facebook and see what we're all about.
Our bartenders and I have decided, so it's actually going to be all in this area right here.
That's fine.
So Pedro,
I just want to hide
Pedro. Come on, Princess. Mitch, you are astronaut. Span the roadkill. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do, guys. So you top five, I'm gonna have you guys move into the stage room over here, and then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have the entire crowd kind of gather around. We're gonna cheer to see who is number one.
Let's hear it! Okay, all right. Spaceman. Okay, all right. Napoleon Dynamite.
There we go. Come on.
Awesome Max. Sorry, I had to give you your sound. I mean, you didn't bring tots, dude. You should have brought tots. Sounds like we have a winner, folks. Everyone here, put in $2 for the contest. That's all gone to this guy.